Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to this session. Amygdala hijack. We said so much about it. So Daniel Goleman coined the term amygdala hijack to refer to an immediate and overwhelming emotional reaction, spontaneous. And that reaction, more often than not, is disproportionate to the stimuli that would have caused that reaction. So, and sometimes those reactions might not even have been anything related to you. And it might be what we call umbrella emotions and what we call false assumptions, which we are going to display. And unfortunately, if you don't understand that information gets to your emotional brain before you are able to process it in your thinking brain, then you would have reacted spontaneously and you begin to regret afterwards. And so understanding that information gets to my emotional brain first, it helps you to say, hey, hold on, what is going on? Hey, this is sadness. This is anger. No, I'm not going to do this. So it's very important. We know that. So it is the act of responding, out of measure with the actual threat. When you act out of measure, the body's anxiety switch, it is the part of the brain responsible for our emotional reaction. It is, the off mode. So more often than not, your emotional brain is in the off mode. What it means is that it is not active, but it is triggered by sudden events, like when you are threatened, when people have an individual who offends you in the office, or an individual talk to you, irrationally, or somebody does not empathize with you. It triggers the emotion. But don't forget, the times that we are in, this COVID-19 time, there are a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of unknown. People are scared. People are afraid. There is a lot of unknown. And so at this time, as leaders, as line managers, as managers, it is critical that we understand that people will, in the office, experience some emotional hijack, some amygdala hijack at this time. And so your understanding of what we are talking today, how the brain works, how you can understand your subordinates, how your subordinates can understand their bosses is critical. How you can understand your customers, your suppliers, your vendors. At this time, what kind of tone do you need to use? When is somebody getting upset? It is very critical how the brain works. So let's move on. So the amygdala hijack is characterized by 3 signs. How does it work? Strong emotional reaction. Then what follows? A sudden onset. What is a sudden onset? Something that develops quickly. And so you see somebody shouts at somebody else, or somebody just decided to break a plate, or like Zidane decided to headbutt somebody in a great match, a World Cup final. That is an emotional, an amygdala hijack. And by the time it happens, he got a red card. And what happens next? What you see is sudden sadness, which you can see in his face. And so what that means is, as great as the Zidane, the great player that he was, on the very last day that he was to play football, the final, France and Italy, he did what? He was emotionally hijacked. The limbic brain was overwhelmed. And what did he do? He headbutted Maserati and he was sent off. Imagine, few minutes to penalty, and that suddenly happened. And France went ahead to lose that particular game. So that is what, and so sudden regret. Okay, so we are moving to the video now. Let's look at 2 videos that demonstrate what we are talking about here. The emotional hijack. What does it really mean? Strong emotional reaction. You will see what happened, what Zidane did. The second video, you also see what transpired and the sudden regret that came afterwards. So enjoy the video. After the onset, So you can see it right there. Once he was given the red card, you can see his soberness. So you will see him with the goalkeeper, the Italian goalkeeper, which is Buffon. You will see where Buffon, look at him, look at the way he's feeling. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to go to the next video after this one. Let's play that. Let's see if we can get it.
Once, when I was first engaged to my husband Dante, I asked him to meet me out for dinner to talk about wedding plans. He said he couldn't because he was busy with work. Well, I ended up going out with a girlfriend instead, and I just have so much left to do before the wedding. I'm really busy with work. I don't know how I'm going to get it all done.
I understand, Miranda, but you need to relax a little. This should be a happy time for you.
Oh my god, Denise, look. I think that's Dante with another girl.
Well, maybe it's just...
Busy with work?
Miranda, we are your boss, Mr. Deli Blue. Mr. Blue, this is my fiance.
What? Oh, nice to meet you.
Okay, so the video we've watched, I want to pause a little bit. I want us to go to the chart. Let's discuss the video a little bit, the two videos. Okay, so that is good to hear. Nice to hear that the second video was audible. So nice to hear that the second video was audible. But what we are just trying to demonstrate here is that if you look at so let me come back so that you can see me talk. Let's go to the second video that you listened to properly. The lady, had a fiancé, they're planning marriage. And what happened? He called the fiancé in the office and he told her that, he was busy. And what happened next? The next thing is that she went, with a friend. She went out with a friend and behold, he saw the fiancé there. And he didn't even know that it was a man, the boss of the fiancé, maybe because of the coily hair, he thought it was a lady. And as soon as he got there, he just felt the glass cup that was right in her hand, and he got to realize that indeed it was the boss. And he was introduced. She introduced it to, meet him, he's my boss. And at that point, you can saw what happened. That sudden attitude that came upon her dropped the glass cup, and by the time she came to realize that, it wasn't what she thought, then just imagine that moment. What happens there is what the brain typically does, the emotional brain. And so if you don't know how to utilize your brain, if you don't know how to regulate your brain and how to regulate activities, understand people, trust people, then there's going to always be the incident of amygdala hijack. And sometimes it happens, it's crazy. I've witnessed, a man who always have this fight with the wife. And whenever he's fighting, it's like hell let loose. Hell is always let loose. She can chase her on the road, everywhere. Nobody dares to. And one day he was doing same and he ran into a car, and that was the end of his life. And so amygdala hijack is real. It's the emotional brain, and it is something that we need to understand very well. So let's continue with the video. So I can see some, before I go back to the video, I can see some question here. Say, don't you think Zidane's action was born out of an innate accumulated grievance? So the issue, that is why it is very good to take certain tests. I don't know if you took that test. What have been studies have shown over time is to differentiate between personality traits, your personality, and emotional intelligence. Personality is more of what you would call who you are. It's relatively rigid, whereas emotional intelligence is something you can change. And so you can also understand your emotions and use your emotions to redirect, to regulate your personality. It is very, very important. It's not an excuse for, so that is why it's also good to learn, even though this program was not a program where we would have really touched on personality trait, particularly using the 5-factor model. We decided to introduce it because we know that some questions might come like this, so that you understand personality trait, most times they are relatively rigid, but emotional intelligence, like leadership skills, something you can learn, is something you can improve on if you understand how the brain works, where the cortisol is, what are the stress hormones that you have, like your adrenaline, like your cortisol. What is the role of the cortisol in terms of your reaction, the accumulation of stress, and how will that lead to, like what you saw now, an amygdala hijack, and how can you regulate that? So it is very critical. Imagine if Zidane has looked at that, it was a 1-second thing. If he had booted him, just imagine if he had said that, okay, this guy is trying to, make me upset. He wants me to get angry and do something, and allow the rational brain to work. Remember, that information was going to what? That thing that Matarazzi said was going to his rational brain. But the amygdala, understanding that your emotional brain is part of you, and it's the information we get to that emotional brain first before the rational brain will help you. So, and the issue of racism, protected racism, if you look at what happened there and some of the excuses that we later got to know, is just talk about, and which we were that talk about his mom. Let me be very frank with you, words have been said up to people, but how you are able to regulate yourself is what makes you emotionally intelligent. Whether you are a student of the Daniel Goleman School of Thought, the competency-based model, we talk about self-management, regulating yourself, self-control. What happened there was the inability for him to have what you call self-control, and emotional amygdala hijack occurred. If he has self-control, he would have been able to stop that. So I can see the chart coming. His action was also hijacked by the amygdala. It would have been rational if it got to the, yes, definitely, the thinking brain. And so it's good for us to always know. So let's be moving on. As we move on, we're going to see a lot. We are going to be sharing a lot of why we behave, why we are in certain mood, why we think, why we, even in our own home, husband, wife, why do we think in certain ways? They're going to surface here today. So let's move on. So I will go back to share this slide. Please just keep the message coming intermittently. So 5 top amygdala triggers in the workplace. So when we are in the workplace, it's good to know this is not exhaustive, and it wasn't meant to be exhaustive. It wasn't meant to be exhaustive, but you must know there are certain what you call triggers that we need to pay attention to. One of them is condescension and lack of respect. When people are condescending, it's something that really leads to an emotional hijack. And a lot of times in organizational value, and unfortunately, one of the models that we didn't talk about here today is the model by Adeline. It talks about values, vision, and mission in our own model of emotional intelligence. It's not one of the popular ones. And so you need to understand that I had some, some experiences. I've worked in few organizations. And one of the things that I found is that when you have a value called respect, some persons in organizations who are very senior always believe that respect is one direct dimension. It is just bottom top. So those are the bottom of respect. But if you understand it, particularly an HR person, a compliance person, an ethics person must understand, a conduct person, that respect must be mutual. And so when you demand respect, you should also be willing to give respect. Being treated fairly. So one of the role of leadership we've seen in research is the impact of leadership and sometimes emotional intelligence on organizational justice. Justice is not equality. How do your employees feel about fairness? This training is not really for job satisfaction and organizational commitment. But when you look at a lot of research that talks about the three models of the three component model of organizational commitment, you find out that some individuals, most employees, according to Allen and Meyer, is that they are committed because they have affectionate commitment. Some of them is because of side bets, and side bet commitment is because they felt that if I leave this job, then it might be difficult for me to get another job. And the third one is about how do they see the organization? Did they see it as fair? Whether it's in terms of pay, whether it's in terms of bonus, whether it's in terms of the way people are, the way things happen in the organization. People see fairness, but not necessarily equality. And so when people see organizations are not being fair, it can trigger emotional hijack, amygdala hijack. And that is why leaders must be able to understand emotions and know when a subordinate is in certain mood. Facially, and a lot of moods are not said in words. They are non-verbal. We are going to look at that. Let's proceed. So another one is being unappreciated. Please, let's mute our mic, please. I am not able to right now mute everyone. Please mute your mic, please. So the next one is feeling that you are not being listened to, being held to unrealistic deadlines. So those are some of the triggers. Ideas to stop hijack, a model to interrupt amygdala hijack, physical withdrawal, particularly the times that we are in, the COVID-19 time. A lot of us are working from home, and there's a whole lot of new vocabularies, shelter in place, working from home, so different names, COVID-19, coronavirus, there are a lot of vocabularies right now. So physical withdrawal is what you do. So for example, if you have a boss who is hyper, intensive in the office, is always raising his or her voice, then you don't need to raise your voice. You must understand that if his or her amygdala is hijacked, yours need to be kept in check because you are now aware, you are now able to identify and understand emotions, and what your understanding can help you to regulate the emotions in others. And so whether it's from the Daniel Goleman, you should don't just see those competencies like, oh, you need to self-regulate, self-control, you need to innovate, creative, transformation. No, know them in terms of how the brain works. What do I need to know at any particular time? Name the label, trigger, or emotions. One of the things that we've also found out is that a lot of times we say we are sad, we are happy. We use what we call umbrella emotion. Rather, it's good to label the emotions that you are feeling. Are you angry? Are you sad? You need to label that emotions. So don't forget, when amygdala hijack occurs, what it means, hijack, it means that, what does hijack mean? Simply that information that is going to the cortex, the rational brain, has been hijacked by the word, spontaneously hijacked, in millions of seconds, hijacked by the limbic brain. That is what it just means. And so if you understand that when information is being transmitted to your thinking brain, where you can think properly, it has been hijacked. And so once you know that, then you can know how you can regulate self and also regulate others. So it's very important. Take the time to revisit the hijack after some time, and which is always the case. You know, traditionally in Nigeria, in native parlance, they will say, sleep over it. So when you sleep over certain things, it might become clearer and you might get certain perspective that you didn't get earlier. Ideas to stop hijacking, strength in appreciation, appreciate people in the office, think positively. Positive thinking is great. There's what you call positive psychology. That is your ability to see the good side of everything. The upside in risk management, we have what we call the upside of risk. What is happening right now? One of the upside of it is that we are here, we are able to, run this program, and we're able to run it to more than the number of people that we would have been able to run it for. And what does it also mean? It means that Lichting Academy can tap from resources from faculties across different jurisdictions. And so educationally and otherwise, people begin to see what are the upsides of this global pandemic. And the world will never remain the same. And that is the truth. And so people will see certain capabilities that will become possible rather than what we thought before the advent of COVID-19. So sleep and exercise. Exercise is also very good at this time. You have your normal routine. You go to the gym, you do working, you go to the field, you play football. Right now, you might not be able to do that, but do certain acrobatic display in the house. You can do your, just the little things you can do at home just to keep your cortisol and everything, your parasympathetic neurons, the nervous system, running and flowing fluently. So self-care, take care of yourself at this time. This time, a lot of people, they are sad, they leave themselves, they are not able to take care of themselves, the emotional well-being, the physical well-being, the health well-being. This time is out when you need to take care of yourself. Turn on your parasympathetic system, which is your body's natural ability to return to calm. Make sure that you meditate, you breathe sometimes, you go for a walk, you apply, a lot of the little things that you can do to restrain your amygdala. Don't go. We need to share those 3 programs. And so it is good to have EI skills, but EI skill is not enough. You need other behaviors in your repertoire. You need other behaviors. You need transformational leadership behavior. You need authentic leadership. You need servant leadership. And you will still need more. Howard Gardner said you need multiple intelligences. So thank you very much, and thank you for your time, and God bless you, and God bless Nigeria.